Well, hello again all my YouTubers, and thanks once more for returning to Classic Dirt Bike TV, and a very warm welcome to all my brand new subscribers to my channel who have just recently signed up, and they're helping us on our way towards that big 11,000 subscriber total, so thanks to each and every one of you for that. Okay, in my next video we're going to take a look at another one of those Czechoslovakian Twinshock machines, and this particular bike is Billy Chisholm's lovely CZ, or CZ if you're watching this in the good old USA. So anyway, enough from me, and let's just crack on and jump straight into this video. Yes, a nice looking, almost original 360 CZ, and this bike is just one of the many classics that Billy has in his collection. And although I'm not 100% sure, I still think that this is a 1974 or even possibly a 1975 model, with of course the original red painted frame. But these old Czechoslovakian bikes are becoming so popular now with the vintage and classic riders nowadays, and are being bought and sold almost daily as owners look to grab a bargain for their new race bikes. Now, in the late 1990s, when the Twinshock racing scene was in full swing, Micos were the bike that everybody wanted at that time, although these CZs, or CZs if you like, are beginning to get just as popular, and very good examples are fetching top money if you've got one for sale. But Billy's bike featured here is not a fully stock version of a 1970s CZ, but it's still a very nice looking machine, and of course extremely quick on the track. These CZ engines were, despite what people say, very durable, strong and pretty simplistic in their design, and not unlike of course the German Micro motor of its day. But many people just didn't like the noisy, rattly sound that these motors made when they were fired up, and I think that put many potential buyers off from actually purchasing one. Now, back in the day, this engine would have been fitted with CZ's very troublesome Chisolm carburetor, which did get a bad reputation for leaks and flooding, and many owners changed these almost immediately for a more modern, better quality replacement, such as this Makuni that Billy's fitted to his bike. But a bit rattly and noisy they may have been, but in terms of their power output, these engines were a match, if not better, than some of its equivalent bikes from that period. And of course, the stock engines from the 1970s wouldn't have had these barrel modifications seen here, where every second cooling fin's been removed. Now, some owners argued that it was done to reduce the weight and the vibrations between the fins, while others say it was done to stop mud jamming in between the fins if it's a particularly muddy race event, whereby this again of course would clog up the fins and then impair the motor's cooling. But nevertheless, these engines could sustain a load of punishment and take a battering from even the hardest of riders, but they were tough as old boots for a simple two-stroke motor. Now, this exhaust system on Billy's machine certainly looks period correct, with its underslung expansion section and that very high tailpipe, and it's certainly rare to see one still fitted to one of these old CZs, as many owners tend to opt for a more modern replacement pipe these days, which of course is easily available from the likes of Jared Copping at CZ Stuff, who stock all manner of spare parts for these Czechoslovakian machines. Again, very rare to see one of these bikes with the proper CZ race bars still fitted, and Billy's bike appears to be no different in that respect, because if memory serves me right, the way that you could tell the factory bars from standard replacement items were that the hangers for the clutch and brake levers were welded onto the bars and not bolted on with clamps, as seen here on Billy's example. Now, the front end of these CZs were maybe a bit on the soft side for a mid-1970s motocrosser, although as long as you weren't doing any upside-down supercross stuff and keeping both the wheels in touch with the old terra firma, then there wasn't really a problem. Now, the front and rear brakes again were adequate at best, although you have to remember that this was the mid-1970s and this was still the technological stopping power of the day. But nevertheless, these brakes would still pull you up if you could get plenty of notice beforehand. Now, originally from the factory back in the day, these CZs would have come supplied with a pair of alloy-bodied air rear shocks with rubber gaiters on the outside to prevent dirt and dust from entering their workings. And these were seen at the time as quite radical, but almost all of them were then replaced with better conventional units, such as these Works performance shocks that Billy's fitted to his bike. But a lot of these older Falta replica bikes had similar features to the Works machines of their day, such as this lovely alloy gas tank and that leather securing strap to hold the fuel tank onto the frame. Now, of course, this was to help remove the tank quickly in a race situation, whereby you just then unbuckled the strap, disconnected the fuel hose and then lifted the tank off the bike. Certainly no farting about with bolts and nuts and spanners, but just a simple and effective solution. Now, a decent Venhill gasser throttle and those quality Magura levers and their covers to help control the horses from that piston port two-stroke motor. But these alloy tanked CZs were designed to look just like the original factory Works bikes that were ridden by the legendary Jaroslav Falta, who raced a full factory version of this bike away back in 1974, although of course the full-blown Works bikes would have had the centre port exhaust engine, magnesium brake hubs, lipless alloy wheels and the single down tube frame, and of course most importantly those very rare alloy bodied air shocks, which were at the time ahead of the competition. But I have to say, it's still great that these old Czech race bikes are still taking part in vintage and classic race events in this modern day, because back in the 1970s these bikes were kicking ass all over Europe at the time, and some legendary names were winning championships on a regular basis, sitting astride these formidable machines. And this example of Billy's, which may or may not be the real deal, is without doubt a quick glance back to when CZs were a world leader. Well, I do hope you enjoyed having a look at that lovely CZ twin shocker belonging to Billy Chilsolm. Now, coming up in my next video, we'll be delving back once more into the racing archives to bring you more classic racing from the Thornhill Scramble in 2015. So I do hope you return to view that video posting. So once again, thanks for your continuing support of my channel, and we'll speak again very soon when we all return to Classic Dirt Bike TV.